All right, thank you for staying with us. We just try and create a nexus between what we have discussed earlier about politicians, using their power, influence to make certain decisions, even if it sounds unfair and arrogant in the case involving Minister Wiki and Senator Ireti Kingibe now. In the global space, it's no more news that there is a problem in the Middle East, actually, that has to do with the United States of America and, of course, the the state of Israel, having an attack against Iran, and, of course, attacks on both sides. The killing of Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, and other high-ranking government officials, and which has really touched the nerves of Iran, and they have promised to hit back very seriously, and they have been hitting, especially to those bases that America troops are, and which they have been launching these attacks in UAE, in part of Saudi Arabia, and all of those things. And people are taking sides. I mean, countries are taking sides already. And now that Ayatollah Khamenei has been taken out, the latest is Mr. Trump saying he wants to be involved on who emerges as the next supreme leader. And that's why I say we are creating a nexus, just like we say, in what capacity, the Minister Wiki said is going to let the Abuja people know who will be their senator, because the current one will not return. So in which capacity is Mr. Trump saying, that's President Trump of the US saying, whatever happens in Iran, he wants to be involved. Your next supreme leader, I want to be involved. You are not a Persian, the older name for Iran, and all of those things. But then it's been some level of carnage as far as it is concerned. Let's just juggle, respectfully, your memory for you to have a hang of what we are talking about.
The Iranian Air Force is no more. Built for 1996, destroyed in 2026. The Iranian Navy rests at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. Combat ineffective, decimated, destroyed, defeated, pick your adjective. In fact, last night, we sunk their prize ship, the Soleimani. Looks like POTUS got him twice. Their Navy, not a factor. Pick your adjective, it is no more. In fact, yesterday, in the Indian Ocean, and we'll play it on the screen there, an American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death. The first sinking of an enemy ship by a torpedo since World War II.
All right, because of the exigency of time, you will get to see many things that have happened in the fire that will be displayed. And one might want to say you have an attack and classify where a particular vessel was destroyed. And this is having a dash straight on the world economy, actually. The Strait of Hormuz, which is a big route as far as world economy and transportation is concerned, have been closed up. And these are the issues we are seeing. You just heard Pete Hegseth, he's the war chief in the US, speaking so, I want to say arrogantly about what they have been able to do to Iran, even though there are claims that that has not happened as well. It started with, the issue of having nuclear weapon and all of those things. And there was an attack a few months ago in which Mr. Trump, that's the president, said they've been able to destroy whatever plans Iran are having. But some have said that's not true. You didn't even get close. Why would a country have nuclear weapon program and another country is not allowed? But, that's not the focus this morning. But he's saying whatever happens, you remember what the US did to Nicolas Maduro, the former president of Venezuela, where they went into the place, took him like a common thief, put him in handcuffs back in the United States. And now nothing, has happened really, in essence, beyond shout and protest and all of those things. Iran is the one at the other end of these attacks by Israel and, the US right now. But Mr. Logun, it's a lot of conversation, actually, because Netanyahu, on the other hand, is saying, you people, you want our life, you will not cease. You will cease to exist and all of those things. I'm not even talking about that part, but what does this say about, we used to have the word order. Now it seems world order is whatever it is by whoever is concerned, and that's why I try to create that nexus. Do you find this as because some have really condemned Iran too for whatever they have done, especially under Ayatollah Khamenei, that it was more like a suppression. You don't have a wish. I've seen some files, of the past before Ayatollah Khamenei, and you will see that Iran in those files, we used to be more like a secular nation, really, with beauty pageantry, with everybody having fun. And then some persons came into power and everything was shut down, became a religious, inclined, which I don't have a problem with, nation, all of those things. Say it was suppression under Ayatollah Khamenei. He has been taken out and all of those things. So try and make a sense. The US is now saying, in Iran's matter, whoever we have emerged as the leader, Mr. Trump must be involved. We be involved. He has to be. In what capacity?
For me, there are two things.
Tell me.
There's what is called the world order.
Yeah.
There's what is called the world power.
Yeah.
And it's beginning to look like the world power is becoming more important than the world order.
Oh, obviously.
And we just seems to be a people that are pretentious in facts before us.
What do you mean?
No nation is truly independent in the real sense of it. Not even the United Kingdom. Today, our policies, our economy in Nigeria, our decisions on military interventions and what have you, is guided by the influence of the United Kingdom. But then, we call it an independent nation. As we speak today, the US has military bases in Nigeria. The US is fighting part of our war.
They have their troops. They don't have a base yet in Nigeria.
Look, don't let anybody deceive you, Femi.
Yeah.
US does
Officially
not...
speaking, that's what we have.
The US, by convention, does not send its troop into a nation where they don't have a base. What do you call a base? Where a troop resides and the ammunitions are kept. Tell me another definition of a base. So you want to tell me that the troop that was sent in from the US to come and fight part of our war.
To train.
To do what?
To train.
They are not training. They are fighting.
Intervening, yeah.
They are intervening. They are fighting. They are on the war front. You want to tell me that you are keeping them in Mabushi military cantonment in Abuja? Or you want to tell me you are keeping them in Italian military cantonment? Or you are keeping them in one government house? The US is not such country. So if anybody is deceiving you as a Nigerian, that there's no military base here, it's all lies. Because the US will not send in their troops without a base where the equipments are secured and when the livelihood, the standard of living of their troops are not compromised. So once you have such, that is a base. So if we have a US base in Nigeria, then tell me where our independence is in the true sense of it. You talk about Ghana.
Yeah.
You talk about the Republic of Benin. You talk about many countries in Africa and even in some parts of Europe. They are under the subjection, quote and unquote, of the countries or the powers that initially colonized them before the so-called freedom.
Yeah.
And that is what is called world power. World order is supposed to guarantee independence of every nation, every democratic nation.
Sovereignty. Yeah.
Sovereignty. That is the world order. But in this sense, the world power has taken over because the world power now determines the sovereignty of a nation. Put that on one side.
Yeah.
And that is why you now talk about the unusual influence that the US is bragging about or is showing, because they are no longer bragging about it now. They are beginning to show capacity to display that they actually have the power to brag. You said some years back, with the video, the clips or whatever you're referring to, the antecedent is about 15 years before now. Don't forget that the president that has been taken out has been president for about 50-something years before he was eventually taken out. So that means it is
the supreme leader.
The supreme, that means it was pre his regime that we have secularity in Iran. Immediately he came into power for over 50-something years. He came to power about 33 or so, if my record serves me right. He was taken out at the age of 87. So which means for about 54 years, he has been the supreme leader of Iran. And his order was subjection. You don't have freedom. And the fundamental right of everyone created by God through Adam is freedom. The moment your freedom is taken away from you, you are under subjugation. And if there's anything the US always stood for, it is freedom. That is why in the US, you can be a Muslim, you can be a Buddhist, you can be a Christian, you can be anything. And that is the agenda of the US. The US is not asking that any nation become a Christian nation. They are asking for secularity in all the nations of the world. And here was a country called Iran that was building nuclear power with the intention, quote and unquote, to take over the world power, to be in control. Which means if Iran had succeeded in the building of the nuclear power that they were building, and they become so powerful that they are no longer, no nation is no other threat to them, which means they'll begin to bring out their influence on the nation and begin to recolonize nations and make them Islamic nations.
Is that not a narrative that has not happened? You always want to call, some have said, you can always call a dog a bad name just because you want to kill it.
What happens?
Because some have said is whatever Iran is being accused of, that there has been some level of high-handedness on the part of the US.
The US is high, and there is high-handedness in the handling of matters by the US. But there's what is called intention of purpose in government. Intention of purpose is knowing the end before the beginning. The question would be, to what purpose was Iran building nuclear weapons?
But is there anybody who can know that? That was the same, or something similar, was the narrative that were played about Gaddafi, about Saddam Hussein in Iraq. And
let me tell you.
You remember, Dr. Ologun, I'm sure you do this maybe more than I do, that there was the narrative of weapon of mass destruction in Iraq. Under Saddam Hussein, at the end of the day, nothing was found.
How do you know something was found?
We were not told anything.
Because it was not told. Let me tell you, in government,
till now,
in government, nothing is done by fear. Everything is documented. And that is why you have classified documents. You understand what I mean?
If anything was found in Iraq, would it be classified, actually?
It would have been classified.
Why?
Look,
because there was a reason why that place was, invaded.
Look,
and Saddam Hussein taken out.
Even in US today, there are nuclear weapons. There are weapons, let's make it broad. There are weapons developed by the US that is not in the public there. There are prisons in the US that are not documented. I'm sure you know. There are prisons in the US that are not on the official document of the United States. There are developments. There are development of war equipment that are not on the website or on the public domain of information of the US. And you begin to find such in classified documents. That's why they say that when you are the head of state or you're the commander-in-chief, nothing is hidden from you. You get briefing, you get security reports per minute. What you now do with those informations is what defines who you are as a leader. So I want to assume, without considering now, that there must have been things that Iran is up to, that the US, by their intelligence, must have gotten a grasp of, that they cannot even make public. Because once they make it public, they also become culprit of the same thing that they're accusing. Look, the US is claiming that Iran is building nuclear weapons. That's why they're taking them out. Are we oblivious of the fact that the US is also building nuclear weapons? Are we oblivious of it? But the question would be, to what intention is one and the other? If one is about to take over and turn the world to a religion or become a bully to other nations, and other one is building his own to curtail the existence of the other, then you begin to look at the intention of purpose of the two.
Is that not based on who is saying what?
It's based on who is the leader at the time. All of these things, I heard Trump saying it categorically 3 days ago when he was doing the State of the State address, that look, that this is a decision that the US had taken 50 years ago, but no president has had the ball to execute. Who took those decisions over the last 50 years? Is it not the Executive Council of the United States? For Trump to say that, that means he found all of that in the document of the US as the POTUS. For him to have said that this is a decision taken over 50 years ago, but which no president has had the ball to execute. Which means if there has been a president in the last 50 years that had the ball to execute it, what Trump is doing now is what another president would have done 50 years ago. So what did the US know about Iran 50 years ago to have taken that decision that is now coming out to play? That means there is more than meets the eye. That's why they tell you that in governance, not everything is meant for the public. Not everything is meant for the media.
So in which capacity, back to the topic now, is Mr. Trump saying whatever happens in Iran, especially the choosing of their leader, he wants to be involved?
Overreaching. And that's why I talked about world power. I mean, world order does not exist any longer. Because we have to follow the world order. No president has the right to infiltrate another country that has independence. But it simply tells you that the world order has been taken to the backseat.
Same is no more existing.
And it's no longer existing. And what is on the play? What's on the forefront now?
The Venezuela situation.
What is on the forefront now is world power. And that is a signal to every nation, including Nigeria, that this is time to begin to build capacity. Let me tell you, a nation far smaller than Nigeria can wake up tomorrow with the support of the United States to say that they want something in Nigeria. And if it is not given, they will bully us. And once we don't have the capacity to meet their military strength, we are either going to cow and give them what they want or go to war with them and get defeated.
Dr. Ologun, as we custom, what are the takeaways for Nigeria as far, because you're already there, so let me just ask that, as far as these scales is going on, right?
3 things. And I said this boldly on another national television 3 days ago when I was asked similar questions.
Please.
Nigeria is sleeping. We are not taking lessons. We are not taking lessons because we are allowing politics to overshadow our sense of reasoning in capacity building. If there are 3 lessons Nigeria should be learning in all of this, number 1 is that there is no friend anywhere. Don't be deceived to think US or UK is our ally. When the United Kingdom tried to speak in support of Iran, immediately the US shouted them down. Have you seen them said any other thing since 3 days ago? The next thing you see is the Chancellor of Germany going to meet with Trump and saying that we are in your support because they know that if they dare do otherwise, if Trump should look the other side, they are in trouble.
But there will always be ally.
Ally is different from friendship. And that's why you can have a colleague who does not even know your house.
Because Spain, I remember, as a nation who didn't allow the US to use part of his land for an attack, Trump is already threatening a total trade war with them. And President Pedro Sanchez is saying, we don't care. We don't believe in this cause. So we might be friends, we might be allies, but you will not use any of our land, for an attack against Iran. And President Trump is already turning an economic eye against them.
Why is Spain saying they don't care? Because they possibly have the capacity to contain the threat of the United States economically. Because what the US will do is to stop aids going to Spain, is to ensure that there are some products.
Tariffs. Huge tariffs.
Don't go there. That means possibly Spain is prepared to curtail all of these effects economically. But if Nigeria is threatened with such, what do we have to curtail it? Let me go back to the question you have. 3 things that Nigeria is not learning.
Please.
Nigeria should learn that in all of this world diplomacy, you can be an ally, but don't be overconfident that another nation is your friend. They can only be your ally. And that's when you talk about having colleagues that are not your friend. You and somebody can work in a place of work for 10 years, and they don't even know where you put your head. They don't even know your house. Such a person is your colleague.
On a lighter note, your bestie might have another bestie.
Yes. That's one thing Nigeria should learn.
Yeah.
That in world order now, in world diplomacy, there is no friendship. Alignment is allowed.
So what should we be doing?
We should be doing 2 things. Number 1, this is the time. Unfortunately, we are at our lowest. This is the time we're supposed to be building our war chest in terms of defense. Not to match up with powers like Iran, Russia, the US, but to ensure that fishes that are not bigger than us don't turn around to want to make an attempt to swallow us. We must begin to do that. Build our war chest. So that we don't begin to succumb to nations ordinarily who should be afraid of us.
While we are still battling with Lakwa and Boko Haram and
no electricity and all of this. I saw the president 2 days ago. This is a digression. I saw the president 2 days ago ordering immediate approval of money for some space, whatever. And I learned that in the last 14 years, our space, our whatever is called in the space has not been serviced. And I laugh. What kind of a nation leave its nuclear space unserviced for 14 years? And the president is already making an order just 2 days ago for a prompt payment of, prompt release of money to upgrade and to do all of that. It shows how serious we are as a nation.
Over time.
Over time. Because wars are no longer fought by AK-47. Look at what is happening in the US, in Israel and the likes. Have you seen them carrying gun and soldiers on the other side and they're shooting at each other? War has gone beyond all of that. You will just see one drone flying over your space. You don't even know where it's from. You don't even know anything. And the next thing you hear is an explosion. of monumental capacity and you are gone.
Economic preparation. We
That
have
is
less
number
than 1
one.
minute.
That is number one. Number two.
Because Dangote is assuring us now, as far as petrol is, supply is concerned, there will not be disruption. I got you.
There will not be disruption. And the same Dangote increased the pump price just 3 days ago.
They say it's part of the global issues.
For somebody who understands economics, the little I do, it is not. Dangote, see, the cost of oil.
If it goes up in the international market, it will go up here too.
Why should it go up here when he's telling us we have more than enough in the south? Are we buying fuel from those nations?
Well, he's not saying you will buy cheap. He's only saying you will always have things for you to buy.
So what has changed? If you have something for us to buy, that means the supply has not been cut. The supply has not stopped.
Yeah.
So where did the increase come from?
Will you blame him? Where are your own
He's a
refineries?
businessman. He's taking advantage of the rise of the cuts in supply of crude oil to other parts of the world to increase his own sales. He's making a profit at our expense because he would rather sell to those nations where supply has been cut off from than sell to us even when he has more than enough in his reserve. So that's why I said nobody should deceive us by telling us gibberish.
All right.
So number two, Nigeria, I've talked about building our capacity in terms of military and space and the rest. Number two, we must step up on our international diplomacy.
Yeah.
A nation that has not even appointed ambassadors in the last 2 years. So how are you relating with other countries of the world?
We've deployed 4.
Out of how many? Out of about 80 something.
Yeah. And we are still waiting
How serious is
for the
such a
deployment of others.
How serious is such a nation? How do you enhance diplomatic ties when you don't even have ambassadors in those nations?
Yeah.
So this is the time for us to begin to be deliberate in our international diplomacy and relationship. And lastly, we must begin to build our economic resilience. We are not people that are guided, or we should use the language of the street. See, if anything breaks up in Nigeria, the first thing any nation, anybody that wants to fight us needs to do is just to ensure that there is no food on the table. And what do we have in our reserves? The reserves that are empty. Show me the maize reserve in Osun that used to be one of the biggest in Nigeria some time past. What do we have in our silos now?
It was looted during COVID.
Okay, and since COVID, how many years have we come before COVID? That was part of that answers. That's 26 years after. We've not made enough. We've not produced enough to refill the silos. Well, we are not a serious nation.
All right. We should be, actually, if not for the contingency of time. I asked my guest yesterday on this program, say we are now having some pockets of protests. Some people saying, oh, Ayatollah Khamenei that was killed is the supreme leader, and so protests are happening in Nigeria. But that will be a conversation for other days. Dr. Ayologun is a public affairs analyst. And of course, just on your screen, the man on the left is the man that was taken out, Ayatollah Khamenei, by this man and his friends in Israel. Although there's back and forth, U.S. saying the missile that took him out was from Israel. Israel saying, no, he's from the U.S. It's just what it is. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure speaking.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for
having me. And we hope
me.
our nation will draw a big lesson from this, that bigger fishes, are always looking for the small ones to eat, even though they are still family of pieces together. Thank you so much for being with us. You can have a recap of this program on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television NG. Emphasis on NG. Femi Ojo is my name. Big shout out to everyone that has been with us all week. It's been an absolute pleasure. Let's do this again on Monday. And whatever you do, please watch your head, and please be safe. God bless Nigeria.